Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters. Money on Tap is where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this podcast radio show. However you are grabbing a hold of this information today, having a listen, we appreciate you. We want to welcome you on board to Money on Tap. We're going to take a look at all sides of the issues and bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table. My name is Seth Cressman, and I'm joined here once again with Ben Brayshaw. Good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you doing this morning?
Fantastic. Can you tell?
Yeah.
We're here. We're awake, and we're moving through some fantastic information today for you because you know what? That's what we want to do. We want to go ahead and grab some of the topics out there that are important to you in your personal finance journey. And some of you are going to be the DIY type of personal finance. Maybe you're this, what is it, the FIRE, which is the financial independence, retire early type. Or maybe you're just, trying to make your way through all of this information and understand what are the levers that I have available for me to get ahead and get to that goal of retirement.
Yeah, I have met with so many people, Seth, and you have too, with just people who are looking for help, not necessarily looking for us to be the permanent helper, but just like questions. And that's totally normal and okay. And for most people, that's how everyone starts out. And, the DIY, which is, great with, YouTube. If you gotta fix a leaky faucet or something like that, YouTube's your place to go. YouTube is not your place to go for financial advice, for the most part.
Well, it can be my place to go for cooking. I like to cook a lot, and somebody this last week asked me, I don't know, they're asking me about a recipe book, and I just was like, I don't even bother with recipe books. They're there, but they kind of sit on the shelf most of the time. I'm usually grabbing my phone or the pad, and I'm like,
yeah.
All right, what's the recipe?
And I mean, I know there's like streaming services on YouTube and stuff like that. I don't mean it that way, but I mean in kind of like handyman style, just kind of mustering through your financial retirement and investing. That's not really the best way to do it. The best way to do it is get educated properly, from experts, from people who know what they're doing. And right. But we're gonna pour out a DIY intentional show for today for people who are looking to manage their IRAs, starting something up, getting things going, looking for a little bit of just, direction and help, kind of in the general way. Like, what can I do here? What can I do there? I'm actually excited about some of these topics because I'll tell you, I get these questions all the time from people that, you go to a barbecue. Hey, it's nice hot summer right now. You go to a barbecue, people say, hey, I was thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts? Seth, I mean, we get these questions constantly.
That's hilarious. It was graduation season, right? We're kind of past that now, now we're into like the wedding zone. It's kind of a funny thing that happens where somebody kind of pulls you off to the side a little bit, and we're in this public venue. I'm not really wanting to make this a public conversation. Can we go over to the corner and have this little discussion or this little session over here? It's great. I love it that people ask me the questions of, hey, I've transitioned my job over here and I'm going to have a better income, and how do I max fund my 401k, and what, or I've got a little extra money to do something with. What should I do here? And we're going to do a little bit of that today. Hey, Ben, I know we can't wait to get into this, but I want to make sure people know that you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook /3D Investing. Let's do it. Let's get into money in the news.
We've got some interesting things today. Streaming services have been the topic of conversation almost on a daily basis. I mean, when you go places, people are on, hey, are you on Netflix? Have you seen, XYZ show? Are you watching this? Did you watch that reruns of, this show or that show? And there's just so much in the streaming video TV world, and it's getting a little overwhelming. I mean, honestly, my kids want to watch this show. My wife wants to watch that show. And, I was like, guys, we can get nickeled and dimed to every $5 or $10 a month subscription service out there. And the bad news is it's getting worse. It's getting worse. There are more streaming services coming, and it's just crazy what's going on. Warner Media recently stole or snags Friends, the TV show Friends, from Netflix. And what's interesting, and Seth, what's interesting about this article is that out of all of the shows available and the millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that Netflix spends on all this new content they build, their second most watched volume of television through Netflix is the old TV show Friends.
Yeah.
It's just
unbelievable.
It's just unbelievable to me.
It is.
Do you know what number one is?
No. What was number one?
Number one's The Office, which is another rerun series. I mean, this isn't like they
Which I love, not so much the Friends. That's more Kira. That generationally speaking, we're the what are we? We're Generation X.
Yeah.
So, that's us, right? That was what was on TV through high school, post high school.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, everyone was talking about it. I mean, I was never I've actually never been a diehard either of those shows. Though I've seen them bits and pieces and stuff like that, and they're silly and funny and whatever. But
it's kind of like that comfort food. I always go back to food, folks. Everything's food for me. What can I say? So it is kind of like that comfort, that warm blanket that people like to put on. And I've had that experience where I've sat down. I was like, I want to watch something. I don't know what am I going to watch, and there's so much to choose from. But The Office is always like that friend I can sit down with and just be like, oh, it's easy, it's hilarious. And I hadn't even watched The Office until 3 years ago, and Kira sat down and she couldn't believe it. She's like, we're going to watch this. And once we started watching it, it was so much fun to just kind of go through that entire show, beginning to end.
I've watched a number of the episodes, and in between funny and irritating. And I'm not sure how much I like it or not, but this article, it's in the Wall Street Journal here, but basically Warner Media is all the different ownerships of all the Warner Brothers Studio, of AT&T Inc., Warner Media. They're actually,
who owns who today? Because this is like an ever-changing landscape.
There's so many layers of ownership; it's crazy. But they're launching HBO Max, which will have all the HBO content and the original features and so forth. But it will now offer Friends. I believe it's starting next year. Is when the subscription that Netflix has ends. But at the end of this year, Warner's streaming service will kind of launch a soft launch of this new service and the streaming service and whatnot. There's no quote on what it's going to cost or how much. It's going to probably be between that $10 and $15 range, as the article, but there's no stated this is what it's going to be. But this is a big blow to Netflix, because in the same breath, Netflix is also losing The Office. In 2021 or 22, their subscription ends in that one too, right, Seth?
Yeah, I think you're right. And what it seems like they're doing is they're basically buying the rights to continue to stream or buy back those rights. But these companies are depending on whether it's Disney and Disney owns Hulu or Time Warner and HBO. Is that what that was? Gosh, I kind of lose track as we're even talking about it. But so they're buying back the rights and they're leasing the rights and they're streaming. But what they're trying to do is kind of take some of these top talent pieces off of Netflix plate for a little bit and move them over to their new idea that they're going to try to run with. When you're even in the middle of this conversation, Ben, I'm realizing, I don't have cable. I don't like paying for that much for my television service. What is it? Almost $200 or something like that is last time I took a look at the packages of what I would want. So I just buy, I kind of do that hack where I buy the internet service. I pay a little extra for some streamability, and then I buy the Hulu subscription, and the Netflix and the Amazon Prime comes with it, with my Amazon Prime subscription anyways. But then you can kind of pack on top of that, like the HBO or the Stars or whatever those other pieces are that you want to pull into the picture. But anyways, I buy the Hulu Live so that I can, depends on what time of year it is. It's I buy the Hulu Live for the NBA finals, so I can watch that. And then it rolled into the World Cup, Women's World Cup, and, and so now that it's over, I need to go turn off that subscription so I can.
Well, it's interesting. So I don't even have a Hulu subscription, and we do have an Amazon Prime because we have Amazon Prime, and we have Netflix. We do have cable, but what streams on my cable is CNBC. I mean, that's probably if they were to look at, if they, had a bill or a bar chart of how much you're watching, I'm sure my kids are watching whatever channel they're watching for kids stuff, but then there's probably like CNBC because that is constantly on. I mean, whether it's on I have subscription service for Sirius XM. And I listen to CNBC and I listen to Fox News and I listen to CNN, and not as much CNN, but a lot more Fox. But I try to get a lot of understanding and depth. I mean, I really want to understand the news around me, and I'm kind of bouncing between these news channels. So my kids get in the car and they're like, for the buttons, and they're like, Dad, it's all news. They're like scrolling through to the numbers. It's pretty funny. But
that's like all of mine is either news or sports. Like
and ESPN. Yeah, that's right. That's the other button. So these, we're paying for all these subscription services, and it's nickel and diming us everywhere, and it's really complicated.
It's unbelievable.
But I think what's really amazing is the volume of dollars involved here. To understand what HBO Max is paying essentially for Friends for 5 years is $425 million.
Drop in the bucket.
That's
Clearly,
amazing.
One show.
Yeah, and
one show.
And NBC Universal's 5-year deal for The Office is valued over $500 million. And this is just from people that are kind of generally aware of the
That's
the conversation.
$500 million.
It's $500 million.
A TV show, $500 million.
It's only for 5 years. It's not like you own it. I mean, I would say for $500 million, I should own The Office. I mean, this should be a lifetime right. That's amazing to me. These numbers are not even fathomable.
I feel like for that kind of money, I should be able to have like my own personal office set and just kind of walk in on an episode that they're filming at any point in time.
Yeah, but it's getting even the I guess the volume of dollars. I mean, to understand what these, this $10 a month, people are like, oh, it's just $10 a month. That's 2 cups of coffee. I mean, I'll waste that at Starbucks or whatever their conversations. It's not a lot of money in the concept of cost and what we'll waste money on. But what's amazing is the development now that they're spending on these shows. And I thought it was interesting how much money that they were spending, Netflix was spending on new content, and how it's watched a lot, but not nearly as much. The new content is meant to drive interest,
right? But
people are watching the old content as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see, because these are shows that have been out for a while, and we're going to move on to like basically the idea that that you're running with there was how much are they going to pay? Right now, they're not newbies. These are companies that have been around in the entertainment industry. They just are not the brand Netflix,
right?
And they're pulling together these concepts, but they're paying to get these subscriptions and your attention at unbelievable dollar amounts. $15 million for an episode of one of these new shows. Yeah.
I mean, $15 million. I remember when Seinfeld, I mean, I don't know if you remember this in the news way back when. It was like he was going to get paid $1 million for his last season per episode. And I remember that was like enormous news. I mean, they're talking about $15 million per episode for a streaming market. And they're not even sure if these shows, I mean, think about it. So Seinfeld was like a surefire major moneymaker back then. I mean, this was season upon season. People were screaming for another episode. They're going to pay $15 million per episode for something they're not even sure that's going to be a blockbuster hit.
Right. Well, some of these are going to flop, I'm sure, but it's going to be hard for them to flop, in my opinion, depending on how well they do them, I guess, is the other piece. Is like the Star Wars spinoff, The Mandalorian. What is the Lord of the Rings series is Amazon. Apple signed up Aquaman star Jason Momoa for his fantasy series C, and Halo's coming out with Showtime. And here's the one I can't wait to see, which is the Warner Brothers Frank Herbert's Dune. I have been dying to see somebody do Dune.
I don't even know what that is.
I know. It gives you a little bit of glimpse into what I like there. It's Dune. Man, Dune is amazing. If you haven't watched that, go back into the 80s and watch Dune.
Okay. Oh gosh, Seth. Okay, so
sorry.
No, that's fine. I don't even know what it is, but I mean they're Game of Thrones, big huge topic of the world today. There's doing a spin-off of that, but some of these things are going to be set to be a total bust. Right. I mean, because how many spin-offs are really a huge success?
And we're talking $150, $200 million that they're putting into these.
$200 million, and it could be a complete bust.
Yeah, but I guess in terms of what it is that they do regularly with the the movies, I mean that's about what it costs to get Spider-Man to the country.
Yeah,
but I mean again that's kind of like they know Spider-Man. It's kind of like the Seinfeld equation there. They know they're going to get a return on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just people. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. You're going to put a Spider-Man movie out, I'm going to go see it, no matter what. It's one of my childhood favorites, and every version of it I'm going to watch. I don't care whether I like this actor or that actor or what the story is. That's part of your, childhood comic books and that I was into. Same with Superman. They're going to put another Superman out. We're all going to watch it. That there's things like that are surefire that you're just going to get volume from, but it's just amazing to me about the money here and some of the stuff. It's going to be kind of a this might be tactless at this point, but a crash and burn for our next article there, Seth.
Are we going to land the plane?
We're going to land the plane. Yeah, so our last article for Money in the News, which is really interesting, is Airbus is going to overtake Boeing as the number one plane manufacturer this year because of all the problems with Boeing. And, if you've listened to any of the news and some of the stuff and the tragic accidents in Ethiopia and so forth, I mean, it's like 300 and some odd passengers have died 2 different times and 2 different crashes. That 737 MAX, which is basically, been grounded. There's a lot to this. I think what people don't understand inside the plane manufacturing world is that we all understand we fly in old planes all the time, and some of the older planes are great. They're super strong. They're very sturdy. I mean, I actually had the opportunity in one of the many airline travels I've had in my life to sit next to a guy who was, in uniform, but not uniform like a pilot, but in the company uniform, and he was was in a taking a seat to fly wherever he was going, and he was actually a mechanic, and he was telling me that some of these planes are just literally like almost indestructible. Like they'll last another 20 or 30 years. They're not designed to be replaced, but the demand for flight and travel is growing constantly. And there's
first of all, Ben, I got to tell you that I am so relieved to hear you tell me that story. I was afraid that you were going to tell me that the mechanic was like, you wouldn't believe how these planes are just kind of cobbled together and barely flying. And we're surprised there's not more accidents. But no, they're built to last, and this is not these are not designed to go anywhere soon. We're going to have these things in the air for a while.
And it's interesting because he told me that, but I'm looking at this article. There's a backlog of almost 13,000 planes, or about 7 years of production in air manufacturing going on. And I'm sure some of this is replacing and so forth. And there's clearly an error or a problem with this particular Boeing plane. And it's not with all of them, and they got to figure it out and get to the bottom of it. But I've been listening to news article, and so Boeing has not always been, number one. I mean, they bounce back and forth, but it's been 7 years that they've had this reign of being number one. And everyone kind of thinks of airplanes, you think of Boeing, but they have, really gone pretty hard in the jet manufacturing space. They've really tried to take over the air manufacturing piece. So this is a big hit to Boeing. And what this actually does to them as a company, to a stock, these are things to be evaluated. And the news is evaluating this constantly. Now, do I think Boeing's out of the plane manufacturing business? I don't think so. I think they're going to get to the bottom of this. I think there's a good future for Boeing. I don't think this is the end of the Airbus Boeing competition. So,
yeah, there's it was 2012 actually that Boeing came around and overtook the Airbus brand as the number one. And I was curious if there was some thing that we could take a look at in something similar back in 2012. And believe it or not, there was kind of a string of I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was a string of the Airbus having some issues too. So similar stories. I mean, it's just going to be the pendulum swinging back and forth. They're going to be here. They're not going anywhere. But if you are out there as a buyer, and you think Airbus is going to or Boeing's going to figure this out and they're going to stay in business, you might want to take a look at that. It might be a really great opportunity because wow, they just crushed it coming into March, and now we're looking at a season where they've really taken a huge hit, and they're going to have their earnings reports coming up, and I think July 24th is when that's coming out. So something to think about, you guys, as you're out there as a personal investor.
You know, it's funny because I got the chance to hear Alan Mulally speak one time. You know, he was the CEO of Boeing and graduated from MIT, you know, and eventually became the CEO of Ford. Really, really great guy. Really enjoyed hearing him speak. But it was funny, he was talking about how when he walked into Ford, people were kind of a little skeptical about his, you know, ability to run a car company since he had been an air manufacturing company and so forth. And, you know, they were talking about XYZ and there's a lot of parts and cars and what are you going to know about this? And he basically turned to him and said, you know, there's like, I don't know, 5 million parts in an airplane, and I got to make the thing actually defy gravity and fly. And you were concerned about me, you know, running a car that rolls.
Right.
I just thought that was
on the ground.
Yeah. I thought that was really very funny comment, but I just wanted to add that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, you know, he wasn't a pretzel manufacturer, so I guess there was some similarities there.
Like, can you imagine the car guys being like, oh yeah, I guess he was defying gravity.
We are going to come back with the DIY of Investors show for you. So stick around. We'll be right back. You're listening to Money on Tap.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, co-host of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben and Seth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, fee-based planning. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. My name is Seth Krussman, here once again with Ben Brayshaw, and we are diving into the DIY, the do-it-yourself investor. Some of the rules of the road. What do you need to know if you are wanting to invest for your retirement personally, wanting to have that hands-on approach? We love it. We want people to have this experience, and we also want them to, you know, learn as much as they can.
Yeah, people need to do it yourself a little bit because you have to get somewhere before most of the time you end up talking to someone like us anyways. I mean, someone's got to get started somewhere, and you're not going to – I don't have a lot of people walk through the door, Seth, who say, I've never done anything and I really want to start working with you. That's not usually how it works. I've had parents bring kids in and say, can you talk to my child about starting that? But I've never had a self-directed person say, I really just want to, no idea what to do. I don't even want to put $1 away until that happens. So usually people are doing it yourself.
Right. Whether you start with the checking and the savings account and you've built up, you know, a nest egg in that.
Buy a CD, whatever it is that you're doing.
Right. Right. That's that's usually a great place for it to start. I mean, CD makes sense. It's guaranteed. It has a term on it of, when you're going to tie that money up, and it has a return on it.
Yeah, so the do-it-yourself, there's basically, when it comes to retirement, most people say, hey, they get their first job, they either get a 401k, or they say somehow someone leads them to saying start an IRA. Right. And so there's like, I don't know, 9, 10 things. We have 10 things written down here of things that you should do, that you should know about an IRA or facts, whatever you want to call it. The 10 things about an IRA that different parts of an IRA that you should.
What's
bring
important
together.
is there's 10.
Yeah.
And they're for you.
Sorry, bad intro on that, but that's okay.
There's an IRA.
The one thing they need to know is you got to have a job, basically, you got to have a job to contribute to an IRA. You have to have earned income.
Earned income.
Yeah, you got to have earned income. So, and if you don't have a job and you don't have any earned income, you're probably not going to want to contribute to an IRA anyways. Just, that's just a problem. That's the first piece. But what is interesting about it is if you are a spouse of someone, like a stay-at-home mom, which is, something my wife has done, is stayed at home with the kids. In those years, you can actually contribute to an IRA.
Yeah.
Because our government understands that has been a way of life for many, many years. And even though that seems to be something that's less and less done, because usually husband and wives both work, if you are a stay-at-home mom, you are eligible, even without earned income, to put away into an IRA.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. You get an opportunity to save towards your individual retirement. This is actually not one of the 10 things that is on our list, but that brings up a question I get a lot, which is, can we have a joint IRA? And no, you can't have joint 401ks, joint. These are all individual accounts that have to stay separate, and you're treated as an individual, even though you're filing jointly in your taxes. Typically, you are still considered an individual as a part of that tax return as well, and numbers work differently for that. But 3, can minors have an IRA? Yeah, anyone with earned income can contribute to an IRA, no matter your age. So my 2-year-old right now is probably turned himself into an alarm clock for Kira, and so I probably should put him on the payroll there and consider that earned income for him.
Yeah, that was actually number 4. But number 5, you can't pay for someone else's IRA. Can't do it.
Oh my gosh.
Now,
why not?
I know. I think this should be changed.
I think this goes back to me just actually completely skipping over the and not even thinking twice about the IRA can't be owned jointly. I didn't even see that number 4 on our list. I should have. Oh my gosh! Oh, this is a good time.
That's funny.
So read the list before you go into the segment again, just to double check your facts there, Seth. Yeah. So you can't pay for somebody else's IRA. Why? Why can't I do that?
Well, you got to be the owner of the account.
Right.
You got to be the owner of the account. I think there's also, once you open an IRA, a lot of people get concerned, like, what do I do now? There's no minimum contribution requirement. So, a lot of people say, what do I need to do each year? What obligations do I have? And I mean, depending on the account and the type of account, you may have fees to keep the account open. You may not. There's lots of different types of programs out there. So I think that's something to be aware of in this space is kind of the cost of having it open. But if you come to somebody and they say, hey, listen, I have $1,000, I want to put it in an IRA and get a little bit of a tax deduction and et cetera, be fee conscious, because if you're going to pay $50 a year to have that IRA open, it may not make sense to put it in that location. No matter what the potential rate is or fixed rate, be aware of that. If you are contributing every year, a lot of companies will waive fees, or if you're contributing on a regular basis, like if you're doing, $50 a month or $50 a quarter, if you just do something, and let's say I would find that out, because that's something that we've done for people too, like 529 plans. I've helped people open them, and they say, well, we really can't do a lot because we have all these other financial goals that we're trying to accomplish, but we'd like to put away something. And I usually say, I know companies that as long as you do $25 a quarter, they won't charge you a fee to have it open every year. And that's $100. So for people who are interested in that kind of thing, be aware that sometimes just regular small contributions will keep your fees away.
Good. So good points there in being aware of what are the limitations, what are the capacity there. So you can have actually more than one IRA, and we come across this all the time when and really we open up multiple IRAs depending on what the purposes are and where we're trying to have those monies reside, the location of those. But having multiple IRAs, the things to think about here is that your contribution limit is still the same. You're limited to $6,000 for most people as a total contribution into those IRAs, and you can split it up, however you want. You can do $4,000 into the traditional IRA, $2,000 into a Roth. But the other concept here that is usually kind of comes alongside that this is just what I find people thinking is that's a model of diversification when they have multiple IRAs, and they can have multiple IRAs and still have the same fund in those IRAs. And so there is no diversification because IRA does not mean diversified. It doesn't mean anything other than just it's the vessel or the shell around this, the tax code around these monies that you have. It's what's underlying in those that really separates and creates the diversification there.
And we've done shows. If you're listening and you're like, hey, I'm not sure about a Roth or a traditional or which one I should be doing, it varies per person. And we've done shows on trying to figure that out for people. And I would encourage you to probably go into our archive and look for that. Whether you do a Roth or traditional or both, there's so much complexity around the two of those and strategies and plays. And if you want the tax deduction, do the IRA. If you say, hey, the taxes don't matter, Roth sounds like a good option. There's some interesting news in the Roth world that I like to do in some upcoming episodes that I think will impact how people look at Roths, both good, bad, and indifferent. So that's something I'm really excited about, a show that I know we're going to be working on. You can't contribute to a Roth if your income's too high. So for 2019, single taxpayers can't make Roth contributions when their income, their MAGI, is over $137,000. And if you're married filing jointly, it's $203,000. So, there are limitations to some of these things and you have to understand those limitations because you might have to undo those. And sometimes in the do-it-yourself world, that can become a problem. I think we're going to talk on that in a little bit because there's
a little bit.
Yeah. Number 9, your Roth IRA can sit idle. If you contribute to a Roth IRA, and this is the same with an IRA too, you put the money in, you don't have to do anything. I mean, again, it comes down to, knowing that what your fees are, what your expenses are. You can just put money in when you're eligible to do that in those years. Like if you're married filing jointly and your income's, $200,000 one year and then it's $205,000 the next year, well, one year you're contributing, one year you're not.
Well said. Number 10, current IRA losses are not tax deductible, my friends. That's a totally different kind of qualification. Non-qualified is what we would say with that. Non-qualified, and it's there's these ideas that kind of run from one version of an investment into another. People think that they cross over, but they don't. And here's why: you're in a taxable brokerage account, and this is the taxable is the non-qualified that I was just referring to. Investment losses can be used to offset investment gains each year, but that's not the case, and we call that tax loss harvesting. But that's not the case for an IRA. However, limited amounts of IRA losses may be claimed if you liquidate the account and the total distributions are less than your basis in the account. And that's
I've never had.
I don't even like that very much because that's really some sketchy stuff that you're starting to tread on there.
I've never had the question of like, hey, can I deduct losses in my IRA? But I'm sure people are wondering that, and that's a good thing to probably know, especially getting into the new space. But you haven't paid taxes on it, so there's nothing to deduct yet. I mean, you're kind of, if you lose money, the IRS loses money theoretically, and when you take it out, you're not going to get paid taxes on it. So that's something, I guess, is your tax benefit there, but no deduction on that piece.
So there used to be this strategy that with the Roths, more specifically, called horse racing, where you could make multiple contributions
Not gambling. Not gambling, Seth. No gambling here.
Okay. There's no code available now in that Roth world for us to go ahead and even have that conversation anymore. But we've got some more coming for you, our DIY investors. We're going to be right back with Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap. We'll see you soon.
On today's Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, Seth Cressman sends us a warning. There are no guarantees. And even the best companies who promise to take care of us in our retirement years may not always come through.
What's happening in some of the U.S. cities? They are claiming bankruptcy. They have pension obligations of $1.23 billion. These are areas, I think, in most of our minds, most of our thinking that we say this is going to be okay. We deal with this all the time. We can't say guaranteed here on the air. Like, we can't talk about something and say, well, there's a guarantee that goes with that. These people are ultimately lied to. And how do they recover when they're 65 years old and go from $45,000 a year of what was considered guaranteed income the rest of their life down to $18,000, $25,000? How do you do that?
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. This is a DIY, do-it-yourself show for investors. We talked about kind of rules of the road around these the IRAs. And what are some of the things there that you need to pay attention to as an investor getting going, and just know Roth, IRA contributions, how much can you do, what can't you do? And you know what? One of the questions that comes alongside of this for us is in 401ks.
Hey, if your head's spinning now, you may want to skip past this section. But so the first 10, give us a call if that's where you're at. But this is interesting, Seth, because we get this question. How often will you get this question, Seth?
Well, it's not every day, but
it's pretty regularly.
Yeah, it's a couple times a month, I want to say. Like it just comes up in our planning conversations, and it's a good question because people should be asking, hey, what can I do with my money? That's what we're talking about.
And the thing is it's a yes or a no for everyone. Like, can I contribute to an IRA and my retirement plan at work at the same time? And for some people, the answer is yes. And for some people, the answer is no. And,
right.
That's unfortunately a difficult conversation because there's so much detail and so forth to it. Now, we talked earlier about some of the limits of contributing to an IRA. But if you're contributing to your plan at work, some of these numbers drop way down on whether you can do both. And I think it's... for a single, right, Seth? It's $74,000 of income.
That's correct, yeah.
And I can't remember, what's the married filing jointly number?
The married filing jointly is 203. Excuse me, no, it is 123 joint.
Yeah, 123 joint. Right.
Yeah,
so it's 203 if you want to do just an IRA by yourself, but it drops
right
down to 123,000 of joint income if you want to do both.
Correct.
And so that's really interesting because, when you think about, if you're making $74,000 a year and you say, hey, I want to do my IRA and I want to do my 401k work and so forth. Hey, great, wonderful. And actually you can make a little bit more because you're going to deduct down from some of this stuff. But it's really complicated in this world with that level of income, no matter how close you are, paying all your bills and doing that. So the lifestyle has to be fairly conservative and frugal to be able to actually do this. So why are people interested in this? And I think the one reason that there's basically two values to this. One is I really don't need the money and I want extra deductions. But at some point in time, when you put all this money into all these retirement plans, you're lowering your tax bracket so low that it's almost irrelevant to do the 401k because you might be putting the money away for a higher tax bracket so far into the future. So that may not make a lot of sense, but for some people, maybe it does specifically. The piece that I find the most strength inside doing this is where someone's getting a match at work, and they're getting a 3 or 4 or 5%, 6% match, and they put in $5,000 to get the free match to match their $5,000. And then they say, I really don't like the investment options in my company plan, or I don't get the help. Like I have clients who say, I want to just put in the match and then I want to put the rest with you as my planner because I like what you do for me a little bit better, but I don't want to miss out on the free money. Well, now they have the ability to, basically pull the money out and put it into a retirement plan. So if they want to do $10,000, hey, they do 5 at work and they do 5 with us, and they have a little bit more intentional investing behind what they want to do in a much broader space to potentially invest. And so that's where I see, Seth, the most strength, I think, is we've ever worked inside utilizing both pieces.
Yeah, when contributing to the 401k and kind of dovetailing that strategy in with a IRA or a Roth IRA, this is really nice because it's really about having some flexibility and modality, I guess, is where I go with that.
Yeah,
with
even
investments.
even control. I just think it's more about control and splitting the money up.
It amazes me sometimes when we take a look at some of the and this is very common, folks. It's we love that people are getting engaged and that they're getting invested, but more like 95+% of the time when I'm taking a look at what are companies doing with their contributions, almost everybody's going into just a target date fund. It's the simple kind of a plug and play that they're doing, but what they're really missing out on, if that's all they're doing in their strategies, is that is not a diversified strategy for one. Really, it's one idea. It's a tool designed for one thing, and so if that's all you're doing inside of that 401k, or even if you have like 30 investments, if like let's say you put 1/30 of your money into each one of the investments offered in your 401k, that really is an interesting scenario that happens as well. More often than not, what I find people doing in that 401k space is they'll take a look and they'll try to diversify into 4 different funds. But sometimes what they have inside of those 401k is 4 different mid-cap funds. There's the value mid-cap, and so they're all in mid-cap because last year mid-cap just crushed it. And they see that and they're like, oh yeah, I want a 17% return or whatever it was off that mid-cap strategy. But this year, guess what? Mid-cap is not doing that great. And so they're chasing returns inside of that, and they're really not having a successful experience in trying to manage that piece of their retirement.
And that's the part where, the DIY can kind of fall apart when your accounts get too big. We talked about, can you have multiple IRA or Roth IRA accounts? And the answer is absolutely yes. The problem is that sometimes you get too broad, too many accounts, you can get a little lost. And you lose a little bit of power and strength inside managing and the types of investments you can have sometimes when you have lots of little things all over the place. And sometimes bringing them together in consolidation can be more powerful for you and how you invest and the strategies you put together. And honestly, the help you can get, even if you're working with anyone. So that's something like, if you were to jump in with a big company out there that you could work with, and they have all sorts of funds, they'll give you a little bit of advice to at least get you diversified. But that is a problem at the workplace, is they get 5 minutes of someone's time. They tell them to put them in these funds. And then the next thing you know, they think they're going to make some sort of changes, and they own, too many mid caps, and they don't even realize it because the names are not clear enough.
So true. So true. All right, folks, we're going to be right back with more Money on Tap. And guess what? You know what? Not everything is plug and play in investments. This is not like you start a remodel on your front room and you get over your head and then have to call the electrician and then have to call the next person in to fix this problem. You can have some serious mistakes and be liable for some
DIY beware.
DIY beware stuff, folks. We're going to be right back. Money on Tap.
On today's Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, Seth Krussman sends us a warning. There are no guarantees.
What's happening in some of the U.S. cities? They are claiming bankruptcy. They have pension obligations of $1.23 billion. In most of our minds, we say this is going to be okay. We kind of let down our guard. The truth is that we deal with this all the time. We can't say guaranteed. a generation of people that are being lulled to sleep with guarantees. These people are ultimately lied to. And how do they recover when they're 65 years old and go from $45,000 a year of what was considered guaranteed income the rest of their life down to, $18,000?
Find out more about three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about DIY investing, and guess what? Not everything is all wonderful in the world of DIY investing. There's quite a few things that people need to pay attention to, and we're here to help. We want you to sidestep some of these mistakes that others investors have made and understand some of the layout here. What does the road look like ahead of you as a DIY investor?
Man, I have met so many DIYs who kind of waited too long. They have, delayed sitting down with somebody, though they've wanted to or intended to. And if you're a DIY and you've actually accumulated some fairly significant assets and you're starting to say, hey, I'm really getting nervous, this is the time to give us a call or give someone a call. If you're listening, 855-226-8551. Give us a call. This is the area where there's a point where DIY ends and you really need help. And we got some perils and some scenarios here that we're going to talk about. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. But, as financial planners, we have and we carry errors and omissions insurance. We can fix mistakes. We can take care of things. But probably one of the biggest perils that happens in the DIY area is when people make changes or try to do things that they've learned about with their retirement plans and cause themselves an enormous amount of taxes. It's just an accident. It's just a simple mistake, and there's no way to undo it. There's an article about a gentleman who is looking to do a Roth conversion, which is probably something DIYs have Googled in the past, and he had a very substantial IRA, well over $2 million, retirement plan, an old 401k rollover, and when he typed in the numbers, he actually typed in $2 million, not $20,000, and caused a conversion taxable event on $2 million of money that was never taxed before.
Right. And that's the reason why, for one, people maybe don't understand, well, why would somebody want $20,000 to be moved over from an IRA, traditional IRA, into the Roth IRA? And it really is for that future, getting outside of that traditional IRA where everything that comes out is ordinary income. And it's taxed at ordinary income, and to have that there's a tax strategy here happening of diversifying the taxability, which we talk about a lot, and we do this a lot. And but it's I made a mistake here. I didn't mean to put $2 million. I meant to put $20,000. It's not going to matter.
Right.
They're going to pay taxes now on $2 million distribution from that IRA, which is a huge mistake that they just cannot recover that money. It's gone.
Yeah, and that's one of the difficult things that is very complicated to undo in general.
Well, you used to be able to undo it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And financial advisors, planners, broker dealers, organizations that effect events like this, because it wasn't you and it was our mistake, we can help in the process of getting this undone. When you do it yourself, it's like done, finished business. You are in the tax world, and I can see this. This is a very simple. I can just see this happening. Rolling over a retirement plan to an IRA. Don't have a lot of income this year. Saying, hey, I can absorb a little bit of taxes now because I'm in a low tax bracket. I'll move $20,000 into a Roth so that money will be tax free in the future. And this is a great thought. This is a great process here. And there's a lot of great processes. The problem is that, boom, you make a mistake. She's looking at almost $1 million in taxes. $1 million in taxes was this error. This is horrific. This is a I'm going back to work kind of mistake. This is somebody who has put their life savings in and has literally committed tax suicide. And that's horrible. I mean, astronomically horrible. So
now this is not, I mean, it actually happens more often than you might think. And that's the thing. It's not that it's such a one-off experience that somebody has here. There are other areas that people make mistakes and have. We just see this more often than probably the rollover mistake that we're talking about of the $2 million and $1 million in taxable. Probably taxes need to be paid out of that. But we do see a lot of the 60-day rule of rollovers getting missed. And this is, I mean, these are things that the IRS is not going to budge a day on, folks.
No,
you're not going to find 61 days and oops, I missed that one.
Yeah, right.
And they forgive you now.
And I'm sure people are listening to us saying $2 million. I mean, there's got to be something she could do. Talk to her CPA, deal with it. This woman that this happened to went to tax court to fight this, to undo it, and she lost.
Yep.
This is not a joke. We're not making like, hey, this is a real life event. The woman said, oh man, I can't pay $1 million. There's got to be a way I can undo this. $1 million is worth going to tax court over, saying, hey, it was a simple mistake, and she lost.
Yeah.
And same with the 60-day rule. So the 60-day rule is really interesting too, because if you're trying to roll over your IRA or your 401k or move it from point A to point B, if you take receipt of those funds, you have 60 days to move that into a new IRA account.
Right, 401k to IRA, 403b to IRA, any of these rollovers, 401k to 401k, doesn't matter, qualified to qualified. It has that 60-day corridor. That's it.
Right.
This last year, I mean, it just seems like I have. It's like I don't know. It's a lot of folks. I'll talk to CPAs and they'll say, "Hey, I've got somebody. Can you help them out?" And this is one of those things where there's nothing that we can do except for have the conversation, which is the hard conversation of, where can I start to push money to offset this year's taxes? Because that 60 days has been there and gone. And
to be clear, it's the indirect rollovers, not the direct rollovers. And if you don't know what that means, so if you're moving from custodian to custodian, so you're moving your 401k directly to an IRA custodian, and they're moving the money for you, you can do that as many times as you want. But when you actually take receipt of the funds and they mail you the check, you put it in your checking account, you have 60 days to get that money into a new IRA or you're paying taxes on it.
Mm-hmm. Or back into the same. You can get it back into the same.
Or you can move it back into the same. That's correct.
Yeah.
But you can only do that once a year.
Right.
And the biggest issue with this, or the biggest problem I see with this, is that let's say you have $100,000 and you're moving it out of a 401k. Sometimes 401k plans will automatically withhold money for it from you, 10%, 15, 20, whatever the rules of the plan are. And so all of a sudden, if it's 10%, you get $90,000. To complete an indirect rollover, you would then have to take $10,000 of your own money along with that 90 and put it into an IRA to complete the full transfer, which means you have to come up with a tax withholding, and you'll get the tax withholding back when you file your taxes. But that's a major complicated process. And I've seen people try to do this not realizing the tax withholding would happen. And that's a big, big, big flaw inside the perils of IRA do-it-yourself management.
Yeah, I don't know how many people really caught what Ben was saying there. It's a huge deal. Again, that 10% that they're going to go ahead and remove off the top of that distribution, it has to be compensated for. If you are rolling over or if you're putting it into a new place or putting it back, you have to compensate and be prepared to have that in your bank to make that whole.
You got
you can't.
Yeah, you got $100,000. They're going to send you 90. They're going to keep 10 of it. Now you have to come up with your own 10 to make up for what they're withholding. It's
right. You can't go back to that company and say, hey, give me that 10 because I need it now to go ahead and make this other part whole. That doesn't work that way. You guys, hopefully this has been a show for you, our DIY folks. We love it. We love you. We're grateful for you because we want you to be thinking about how you're going to get to your goals, how you're going to accomplish them. It's dependent on you. We're here to help. But at some point, you're going to have to grab part of this with us and either start doing yourself a favor and DIY into that retirement, We're here to help. We want to make sure that you have information that is solid, it's reliable, and it helps you get there. At some point, when you have a question, look for us at the graduation party or the wedding this summer. Corner us and have that conversation, or just give us a call. You can reach us at 855-226-8551. You can also email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. All right, thanks a lot, folks. We hope you have a great week, and we will be back with more Money on Tap.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.